to try to get through two stories. First is rather short. The other is a somewhat longer. First story is titled The First Day, and it's told first person by a 5-year-old girl. On an otherwise unremarkable September morning, long before I learned to be ashamed of my mother, she takes my hand and we set off down New Jersey Avenue to begin my very first day of school. I'm wearing a checkered light blue and green cotton dress, and scattered about these colors are bits of yellow and white and brown. My mother has uncharacteristically spent nearly an hour on my hair that morning, plaiting and replaiting so that now my scalp tingles. Whenever I turn my head quickly, my nose fills with the faint smell of Dixie Peach hair grease. The smell is somehow a soothing one now, and I will reach for it time and time again before the morning ends. All the plaits, each with a blue barrette near the tip, and each twisted into an uncommon sturdiness, will last until I go to bed that night, something that has never happened before. My stomach is full of milk and oatmeal sweetened with brown sugar. Like everything else I have on, my pale green slip and underwear are new, the underwear having come free to a plastic package with a little girl on the front who appears to be dancing. Behind my ears, my mother, to stop my whining, has dabbed the stingiest bit of her gardenia perfume, the last present my father gave her before he disappeared into memory. Because I cannot smell it, I have only her word that the perfume is there. I'm also wearing yellow socks, trimmed with thin lines of black and white around the tops. My shoes are my greatest joy, black patent leather miracles, and when one is nicked at the toe later that morning in class, my heart will break. I'm carrying a pencil sharpener, and a small 10-cent tablet with a black and white speckled cover. My mother does not believe that a girl in kindergarten needs such things, so I'm taking them only because of my insistent whining and because they are presents from our neighbors Mary Keith and Blondell Harris. Miss Mary and Miss Blondell are watching my two younger sisters until my mother returns. The women are as precious to me as my mother and sister. Out playing one day, I have overheard an older child speaking to another child called Miss Mary and Miss Blondell, a word that is brand new to me. This is my mother. When I say the word in fun to one of my sisters, my mother slaps me across the mouth, and the word is lost for years and years. All the way down New Jersey Avenue, the sidewalks are teeming with children. In my neighborhood, I have many friends, but I see none of them as my mother and I walk. We cross New York Avenue, we cross Pierce Street, and we cross Ellen K, and still I see no one who knows my name. At I Street, between New Jersey Avenue and 3rd Street, we enter Seton Elementary School, a time-worn, sad-faced building across the street from my mother's church, Mount Carmel Baptist. Just inside the front door, women out of the advertisements in ebony are greeting other parents and children. The woman who greets us is thick as pearls, thick as jumbled marbles that come down almost to her navel, and she acts as if she has known me all my life, touching my shoulder, cupping her hand under my chin. She is enveloped in a perfume that I only know is not gardenia. When, in answer to her question, my mother tells her that we live at 1227 New Jersey Avenue, the woman first seems to be picturing in her head where we live. Then she shakes her head and says that we are at the wrong school, that we should be at Walker Jones. My mother shakes her head vigorously. I wanted to go here, my mother says. If I had wanted her someplace else, I'd have took her there. The woman continues to act as if she has known me all my life, but she tells my mother that we live beyond the area that Seton serves. My mother is not convinced, and for several more minutes, she questions the woman about why I cannot attend Seton. For as many Sundays as I can remember, perhaps even Sundays when I was in her womb, my mother has pointed across I Street to Seton as we come and go to Mount Carmel. You're going to go there and learn about the whole world. But one of the guardians of that place is saying no and no again. I'm learning this about my mother. The higher up on the scale of respectability a person is, and teachers are rather high up in her eyes, the less she is liable to let them push her around. But finally, I see in her eyes the closing gate, and she takes my hand and we leave the building. On the steps, she stops as people move past us on either side. "Mama, I can't go to school." She says nothing at first, then takes my hand again, and we are down the steps quickly and nearing New Jersey Avenue before I can blink. "This is my mother," she says. "One monkey, we don't stop no show." Walker Jones is a larger and newer school, and I immediately like it because of that. But it is not across the street from my mother's church, her rock, one of her connections to God, and I sense her doubts as she absently rubs her thumb over the back of my hand. We find our way to the crowded auditorium where gray metal chairs are set up in the middle of the room. Along the wall to the left are tables and other chairs. Every chair seems occupied by a child or adult. Somewhere in the room a child is crying, a cry that rises above the buzz talk of so many people. Strewn about the floor are dozens and dozens of pieces of white paper, and people are walking over them without any thought of picking them up. And seeing this lack of concern, I am all of a sudden afraid. "Is this where they register for school?" my mother asks a woman at one of the tables. The woman looks up slowly, as if she's heard this question once too often. She nods. She's tiny, almost as small as the girl standing beside her. The woman's hair is set in a mass of curlers, and all of those curlers are made of paper money. Here a dollar bill, there a $5 bill. The girl's hair is arrayed in curls, but some of them are beginning to droop, and this makes me happy. On the table beside the woman's pocketbook is a large notebook, worthy of someone in high school, and looking at me, looking at the notebook, the girl places her hand possessively on it. In her other hand, she holds several pencils with thick crowns of additional erasers. "These the forms you gotta use?" my mother asks the woman, picking up a few pieces of paper from the table. "Is this what you have to fill out?" The woman tells her yes, but that she need fill out only one. "I see," my mother says, looking about the room. "Then, would you help me with this form? That is, if you don't mind." The woman asks my mother what she means. "This form, would you mind helping me fill it out?" The woman still seems not to understand. "I can't read it. I don't know how to read or write, and I'm asking you to help me." My mother looks at me, then looks away. I know almost all of her looks, but this one is brand new to me. "Would you help me then?" The woman says, "Why, sure," and suddenly she appears happier, so much more satisfied with everything. She finishes the form for her daughter and my mother and I step aside to wait for her. We find 2 chairs nearby and sit. My mother is now diseased, according to the girl's eyes, and until the moment her mother takes her and the form to the front of the auditorium, the girl never stops looking at my mother. I stare back at her. "Don't stare," my mother says to me. "You know better than that." Another woman out of the ebony ads takes the woman's child away. "Now," the woman says upon returning, "let's see what we can do for you two." My mother answers the questions the woman reads off the form. They start with my last name, then on to the first and middle names. "This is school, I think. This is going to school." My mother slowly enunciates each word of my name. "This is my mother." As the questions go on, she takes from her pocketbook document after document, as if they will support my right to attend school, as if she has been saving them up for just this moment. Indeed, she takes out more papers than I have ever seen her do in other places. My birth certificate, my baptismal record, a doctor's letter concerning my bout with chickenpox, rent receipts, records of immunization, a letter about our public assistance payments, even a marriage license, every single paper that has anything even remotely to do with my 5-year-old life. Few of the papers are needed here, but it does not matter. And my mother continues to pull out the documents with the purposelessness of a magician pulling out a long string of scarves. She has learned that money is the beginning and end of everything in this world, and when the woman finishes, my mother offers her 50 cents, and the woman accepts it without hesitation. My mother and I are just about the last parent and child in the room. My mother presents a form to a woman sitting in front of the stage, and the woman looks at it and writes something on a white card, which she gives to my mother. Before long, the woman who has taken the girl with the drooping curls appears from behind us, speaks to the sitting woman, and introduces herself to my mother and me. She's to be my teacher, she tells my mother. My mother stares. We go into the hall, where my mother kneels down to me. Her lips are quivering. I'll be back to pick you up at 12 o'clock. I don't want you to go nowhere. You just wait right here and listen to every word she say. I touch her lips and press them together. It is an old game between us. She puts my hand down at my side, which is not part of the game. She stands and looks a second at the teacher, then she turns and walks away. I see where she has darned one of her socks the night before. Her shoes make loud sounds in the hall. She passes through the doors, and I can still hear the loud sounds of her shoes. And even when the teacher turns me toward the classrooms, and I hear what must be the singing and talking of all the children in the world, I can still hear my mother's footsteps above it all. Nice trip.